To demonstrate physical modeling synthesis, I'm going to use the SoftSynth Sculpture. Sculpture is a unique physical modeling synthesizer due to its flexibility. While most physical modeling synthesizers are pre-designed to mimic particular instruments, Sculpture is geared towards creating new sounds via physical modeling. Sculpture loads with a factory default setting that sounds sort of like this. As you can see from the get-go, Sculpture takes a completely different approach to conventional synthesis. So let's explore some of Sculpture's features. The first thing we need to familiarize ourselves with is the material pad. It's helpful to think of Sculpture as a physical string. Based off that, the material pad lets us choose what this string is made out of. By dragging this icon across the pad, we can choose nylon, wood, steel, glass, or any combination in between. Above the material pad is a resolution control, which basically determines the amount of upper harmonics that are present in our sound. Moving down, media loss determines how quickly our sound decays in the upper frequencies. Finally, tension mod imparts a bit of frequency variation that would occur from striking a string extremely hard. By clicking the key scale tab underneath the material pad, we can determine how each of these parameters is affected as we play up and down the keyboard. So moving on, rather than oscillators, Sculpture features what are called objects. These objects are basically the thing that sets the string into motion or sets it vibrating. At the moment, only object 1 is activated, but we can activate each of the objects by clicking their corresponding button. The first thing to familiarize ourselves with inside the object menu is the strength and gate controls. Strength basically is an amplitude control for our objects, while the gate determines whether the object is sounded when we strike a key, release a key, or just always on regardless. Object 1 allows us to choose from impulses, strikes, plectrums or guitar picks, bows, noise, or blows. So let's listen to each of these. Object 2 features the same object types as Object 1, but with a few disturb types. These disturb types act in conjunction with the original object type and effectively act as something physically coming into contact with the string once it's initially set into vibration. Let's listen to some of these options. I'm going to leave Object 1 on since most of the disturb types require the string to already be in motion. Moving on to Object 3, we can see that it only allows for the disturb object types. So let's switch Object 3 to bounce for now. So now let's take a look at this little visual window in the middle of our object screen. This green line here represents our string and we can see it vibrate when we play. These orange blobs and controls allow us to move our objects to different places on the physical string. I'm going to deactivate Objects 2 and 3 and just move around Object 1's placement so you can see the different sounds. Finally, in this section, we can control where our pickups are located under our string. So let's move the pickups around and hear the different sounds. Moving down, we get to Sculpture's Modulation Section. Sculpture offers two powerful LFOs with a variety of waveforms. Each LFO can be routed to two different sources via these two target sections right here. Keep in mind that the target destinations default to being disabled, so you must activate them by clicking their corresponding number. Now that our LFO is activated, we can choose what it modulates. Also, the LFOs can be synced to our project in order to create rhythmic modulation. So let's quickly set a filter cutoff modulation and sync it to 8 notes. Lastly, we can also choose to have the LFO affect our destination in either a positive or negative manner. Sculpture also offers a designated vibrato LFO so that you don't have to use one of the two LFOs to create vibratos. Moving on, we get to Sculpture's Morph Pad. The Morph Pad is similar to the vector control on a vector synthesizer in that we can set a variety of sounds at each extreme and then move the morph ball around to mix from sound to sound. We can designate what our parameters are at each extreme by placing the ball at a chosen extreme and then adjusting our parameters. Lastly, Sculpture offers a basic ADSR envelope generator so we can shape our sound's amplitude as we play. Before we finish, let's discuss a few of the additional features Sculpture offers which aren't necessarily physical modeling in nature. First is the previously mentioned filter. We can select the filter type, key scaling, velocity sensitivity, as well as the obvious cutoff and resonance controls. Next, Sculpture has a built-in delay that acts kind of like an analog tape delay. Below the delay, we have an EQ which can further shape the overall sound. Lastly, there's a limiter which we can use to limit the dynamic range of Sculpture in order to ensure it never clips. On some drastic patches, this comes fairly handy. Sculpture allows anyone to harness the power of physical modeling synthesis in new and interesting ways that previous synthesizers haven't been able to offer.